An orbit was given to them that was sustainable by itself almost. When God says there will always be night and day and seasons of the year, there was an order to creation. And when God populated this world with animals of all types in the air, on the ground and in the sea, and all different plants that were good for food. And then finally, when human beings were put in charge of everything that had been created, and God looked and said, wow, this is a perfect day. He looked and said, it is all good. Yes, a perfect day. But it wasn't too long before things got spoiled. And we don't have to look around the world too hard to see that the good that God saw, the original perfection of this whole solar system that we're part of, has been spoiled by human mismanagement. And it's not a new thing, is it? It's been going on almost since human beings were created. It's okay, this is what we've got, now let's see what we can do with it. How can we use it? How can we manipulate it? How can we take it for ourselves and forget about others? John, in his Gospel in the New Testament, writes about it like this. He says, this is the judgment. Light has come into the world, but people loved darkness instead of light. The evidence is everywhere. We reap what we sow. So we sell arms to countries that have unstable politics and dubious human rights. And we reap the harvest of war and genocide. We build houses on unstable land without proper planning control, using shoddy materials. And then we reap a harvest of devastation when the earth quakes. We encourage a promiscuous society and glamorize sex, and we reap a harvest of abuse and exploitation. We put plastics in the oceans and pollute the air, and we reap a harvest of environmental and climatic destruction. We use provocative language in discussion, and we reap threats of violence. We tarnish people with different views as enemies, and we reap a harvest of division. I could go on and on and on. We reap what we sow. I don't know if you've ever heard of a chap called Sir Robert Watson Watt. He was the one who invented radar. And radar has a lot of modern technical uses, and one of them is in speed cameras and speed guns. Sir Watt was caught by a speed camera. Ooh. He wrote a poem shortly afterwards. Pity Sir Robert Watson Watt, strange target of his radar plot. And this with others I could mention, a victim of his own invention. We reap what we sow. Ask any young person what the biggest issue facing the world today is. Well, let's ask. You tell me. What's the biggest issue facing the world today? Who said that? Someone. Okay. Biggest issue in the world today for you? Plastic in the oceans. Yeah. Any other ideas? Yeah?
Polluted air.
Polluted air. Yeah? Climate change. Any ideas over here? It's all in the same vein though, isn't it? The biggest issue, the biggest worry for people today is the environment. It's global warming, it's rainforests, it's melting ice caps, changing weather patterns, climate change. Hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes, heat waves, floods and droughts. People care deeply about the environment and what we call green issues. And if you've seen Blue Planet, or perhaps you saw Frozen Planet last week, they demonstrate quite shockingly how we all contribute to the spoiling of our environment. But also, they suggest ways in which we can help to repair the damage, because we are today the product of seeds of the past. That each day we go through life, we are sowing seeds for the future. But what you get depends upon what you start with. For example, if you want a certain type of flower or fruit, then you have to plant the right kind of seed. Let's look at a few examples, and I'm sure you can answer these for me. So if we were to plant these, which are acorns, then you would get what? An oak tree. Because acorns produce oak trees. They don't produce elm trees, they don't produce ash trees. An acorn produces an oak tree. We've got an oak tree? Next up. There it is. You see a little acorn as a seedling of an oak tree. Next one up, we've got some seeds. Do you know what these seeds are? Yeah? They're sunflowers, yes. And they're going to produce sunflowers. Right seed for the right thing that you want. Got some other seeds here. Do you recognise these ones? Bit harder, this one, isn't it? What have we got? Yes. Pumpkin seeds. There you go. Are they pumpkins? Yes, they are. Okay, if that's the case with seeds, what about other forms of life? What about this? It's a caterpillar, and it's going to produce what? Yes? A butterfly. Now you might be thinking, but it could produce a moth. But not that caterpillar. That caterpillar that I showed you could only produce this kind of butterfly. Okay, what about these? What seeds are these? Any ideas? We're getting a little bit harder. Yes? Poppy seeds. Yes. There you go. Poppy seeds. The thing about poppy seeds is you don't even have to plant them. They just appear in your garden. They're tiny little seeds, but have a massive fruit. What else? We've got a few more. Oh, yes. Next up, we got some eggs. So what are these going to produce? Magpies, nightingales, emus, ducks? No? What do you reckon? Say? Baby chickens. Are these hen's eggs? They are. Certain types of eggs will produce certain species of animal. And hen's eggs produce chickens. Next up, we've got some more seeds. Recognise these seeds? Yeah. Not sure now, are you? Look like maggots, don't they? It's wheat. Oh. Just forgot, yeah. Of course, we depend upon wheat every day. We eat our daily bread. I've got one more for you. Do you recognise these? Yes? Frog spawn, yes. I looked at it first and I thought it's cyclops, but no, they produce frogs. Frogs. If you plant a certain type of seed If you start with a certain embryo, it's going to turn into a certain fruit, a certain species. What you get depends on what you start with. What you plant determines what you get. And if that's true for things that we see in nature, and we do know it's true, it's also true for ourselves and our own lives. If you plant mean words and name calling and laughing at people, it will turn into bad friendships. If we sow nasty things in our relationships with others, then it will produce bad and unpleasant relationships as we grow. But if we plant being nice to people and loving them and treating them well and caring for them, it will make good friendships. Remember, what you plant will be what grows. We reap what we sow. Tomorrow we will be commemorating the life and death of our Queen Elizabeth. Our Queen committed her life to the country. She sowed service, commitment, honesty, love, and faith. And in her death, she is reaping affection and respect and expressions of love from all over the world. Jesus says that those who sow what is good will reap the reward of well done, good and faithful servant. And we see that with our Majesty Queen Elizabeth. And if we go back to that reading from Galatians just a few minutes ago, Paul's advice is to remember to include God in your sowing, in the way that you live your life, in the things that you make your priorities, in your ambitions and your goals in life, in your relationships and friendships with one another. Remember to include God in your sowing, because there will be a harvest. It's just a question of what kind of harvest. Things grow in the ground whether we've planted them there or not. We know that weeds grow and things get trodden underfoot and things get blown on the wind. So things will grow. But if we're going to have any kind of influence in what grows and what gets nurtured and what kind of planet we want to create and what kind of world we want to leave to other people and what kind of relationships we want with one another, then Paul's advice is to include God in the sowing, in the decisions that you make. The challenge and the choice is not will there be a harvest, it's what kind of harvest will there be. So can I encourage you to examine your words and your actions each day and to ask, what kind of seed is this which I am planting? Is it a seed that pleases God? And can I expect it to produce a harvest of God's blessing? And if it isn't, how can you make it so? We're going to sing a hymn of thanksgiving, reminding us that God is part of all that we see and know. All good gifts around us are sent from heaven above. So thank the Lord, oh thank the Lord for all his love. We'll stand and sing together.